بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم ما بعد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في القرآن المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وذروا ظاهر الإثم وباطنه إن الذين يكسبون الإثم سيجزون بما كانوا يقترفون صدق الله العظيم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here in this ayah of Surah Al-An'am instructs us to leave all types of sins. ظاهره وباطنه. The outward aspect of sins, وباطنه, and the inward aspect of the sins. Things that are obvious to people and things that are not obvious to people. Both of these things Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, ظاهر الإثم. Every sin has an exterior and an interior. What does that refer to then? The exterior is that what people can see, that which people get affected by, that which is apparent to the eye. For example, if a person steals, if a person backbites, if a person lies, if a person drinks, if a person fornicates, these are clear-cut sins that a person is committing. People can see he's doing, whether he's doing it in front of people or outside in his house, away from people, but they have an effect externally. Batina are those sins which take place quietly inside a person's heart, the disease of the heart. And you don't feel it, you don't see it, but they are also a major type of sin. And they have a very corrosive effect on a person. It's like that silent killer that eats away from a person's spirituality. For example, jealousy. And for example, love for position, power, name, fame. All of these type of things are very huge problems. And unless and until a person doesn't search for it, doesn't desire to rectify himself, years and years, rather I should say the entire life can get spent without a person concentrating, without a person even realizing how sick he or she is. Notice the physical diseases of the body, no matter how bad they get, how critical they get, there are some diseases that are more painful than others. There are some diseases that cause more difficulty than others. And let's say it goes to an extent where this person dies. Its pain is 10 out of 10. Difficulty is 10 out of 10. And it's just getting worse and worse. What's the muntaha of it? What's the end of it? Death. Person dies and it's over. So when that person is being buried in the ground, after suffering, for example, to cancer or whatnot, none of us would say that, his body within the grave is suffering through cancer or AIDS or Ebola or whatever the case may be. It's over. He had his life, it's come to an end, and now we've sent him down into the ground. That's the end of it. Death brings the end to the disease. This is what we call a physical disease. This is what we call health issues. Then you have the disease that I'm speaking about, what the Quran talks about, batina, the interior effects of sins or the interior type of sins. Those are the spiritual diseases. And those, a person doesn't get admitted to the hospital. A person doesn't have friends and family who are sympathetic to him. He doesn't have doctor visits, nurse visits, medication. He's leading his life rather maybe even very happily. People look at him and say, wow, we want to have a house like him. We want to have a job like him. We want our kids to be his kids. He's possibly even living a very envious life. No one knows what's going on inside the heart, the spiritual dimensions. And let's just say this person, inside his heart, he's very sick and he's getting worse and worse and worse. Apparently, he's running 5 miles a day. He's getting ready for the marathon. He's doing great. Blood pressure and blood sugar, everything perfect. But that one day, when he dies after 90 years, 85 years, he leaves this world. Death comes to him and he's lowered into the ground. What happens now? That health came to an end, but can we say those spiritual diseases and the effects of that came to an end? Absolutely not. Rather, the manifestation and the punishment and the pain of those spiritual diseases has just begun in the form of retribution and punishment from Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the difference between physical ailments, physical diseases, and spiritual ailments and spiritual diseases. One comes to an end at the time of death, and one begins at the time of death. And once it begins, there's no ending. Because خالدين فيها, once the hereafter is دار الآخرة, is وما هذه الحياة الدنيا إلا له ولعب وإن الدار الآخرة لهي الحيوان. It is the ultimate life. The life of the hereafter is never ending. So the intelligent person is the one who, along with caring for his physical well-being and his health, his regular checkups, his physical activity, checking his diet, and all that what the doctors are prescribing him to do, along with that, he is keeping his spiritual health in check as well. He is working out his heart, working on the condition of his heart. This is something we don't talk about. Once I was coming back after visiting my sheikh from overseas, and I was stopped by the police here, with Homeland Security or whatever, borders. They're asking me where you came from, whatnot. I said, I went to go see my cardiologist. I said, really? You went overseas to see your cardiologist? What kind of cardiologist is that? Then I explained. I said, yeah, you're looking at when you say the study of the heart, it's not just the physical aspects of it that you got to go get this test done, that test done. There's another whole spectrum of the heart that you're not even aware of. And those are diseases that I'm not the only one afflicted with, so are you. All of us, humanity. We're all afflicted with these spiritual diseases. And until you do not go visit a physician and or a spiritual physician or spiritual doctor who is an expert of this, you might end up just dying. With not knowing that, subhanAllah, you had this whole disease within you. How many people die out of all sorts of heart diseases completely unaware that they were sick. All of a sudden they have a stroke, all of a sudden they have a heart attack, and khalas, that's it, the end of that. This happened a couple days ago. I got a phone call from someone like that. Prayed Fajr Salah, completely fine. All of a sudden before Jum'ah, it was before Jum'ah, had a massive stroke, and that's the end of that. Same day. Apparently everything was fine. He made it for Fajr, Suhoor, everything. But that was a silent killer working underground. So spiritual diseases as well are like that silent killer that's there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ordering us in this ayah of Surah Al-A'raf or Surah Al-An'am, وَذَرُوا ظَاهِرَ الْإِثْمِ وَبَاطِنَهُ, that forsake the outwardness of sin and the inwardness therefore. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَكْسِبُونَ الْإِثْمَ سَيُجْزَوْنَ بِمَا كَانُوا يَقْتَرِفُونَ. Lo, those who earn and garner sin, they will be punished for what they have earned. So this is a whole Islamic discipline of tazkiyah, of ihsan, of where the ulama of the past and the ulama of the present, along with focusing on the outer aspects of the sharia and fiqh, they made a whole lot of effort on improving and bettering not only themselves but their communities. Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi, who we routinely quote, was a very, very great scholar and a philosopher in a level on his own. But yet, after attaining the highest, most coveted position in Nizamiya of teaching in Baghdad, the chief teacher, and after being basically climbing up the ladder to reach the top level, where he had 400 ulama, and we're talking about ulama of different cities, representatives of different entire areas of the Muslim populated world, in attendance in his class, taking notes and diligently taking notes and listening to Imam Ghazali rahmatullah alayhi's discourses. He taught and he was an awesome teacher, very, very knowledgeable, probably in his 30s. But then one day, he was struck by the aspect of internal rectification. That I am here in this position, something which people would die to attain their whole life. Allah has given me at this young age. I'm speaking and addressing crowds of scholars, not general public, top-notch ulama from different areas. What else could I have asked for? And every day, knowledge is increasing and increasing and increasing. But inside he felt that I'm hollow. He felt inside, I don't have what I'm saying to others. Whatever he felt. I'm sure he was a million times better than where I am and where you are today, even at that state. But nonetheless, he felt he was not where he should be. So quietly, he leaves his post. And he says, I'm going to have to go for Hajj. Because he knows that the administration will never let him go. The public will never let him go if they know he's leaving. So he goes out telling people he's going for Hajj. And after that, he disappears. off the radar for a full 11 years. And all that 11 years was not studying Arabic, was not studying philosophy, was not studying hadith or fiqh. Those 11 years were dedicated solely for improving his ruhaniyah and his spirituality. Treating the diseases that he felt he had, visiting those scholars who were experts in this field, spending time at their feet all over the world, from Hijaz to Egypt to parts of, of course, Northern Africa, Syria. He traveled extensively, spending time at various institutions, various zawiyat, at the company of various ulama to work on his spiritual side. And after those 11 long years in which he spent time at Masjid al-Aqsa as well, in Quds, there's a place in a corner in Masjid al-Aqsa, you can see it till today, they'll point out to you the guides over there, where Imam Ghazali sat for a very long time. And that's where he also wrote his Ihya ul-Ulum-ud-Din, the encyclopedic work that has become the foundation for millions who have read and written after him on the various sciences of the spirituality, or the various aspects of the science of spirituality. He comes back and then slowly ascended back to the teaching position, and he for the remainder of his life he gave khidmah. What do we learn from that? That where do I stand? Where do you stand? We none of us enjoy a position that he had, but he was so afraid that if this is not accepted by Allah, if Allah judges me on my internal aspects, I'm finished. Where do I stand? Where do you stand? Our performance of Taraweeh Salah, our attendance to the masjid, our fasting, mashallah, our paying our zakah, all of this is the zahir. All of this is the exterior aspects of ibadah, which we are all so negligent in the first place. But let's say we got that down 100%. Still, there's a whole nother aspect of the deen, the internal aspects of the ruhani and the spirituality, and we have to take our own, like they say, the doctor can't force you. You have to take your health in your own hands. You have to worry about your health. No one's going to drag you to your monthly or bi-yearly or whatever the case may be checkup. So ruhani and spirituality, the same thing. Each one of us has to be worried about himself to say, okay, where do I stand? Where do my children stand? Where does my spouse stand? Let me start making an effort. And so the first step to that, of course, is realizing that we're sick. The first step is to realize that we're sick and we need to get treated. And then Allah, asking and begging Allah in these beautiful nights of Ramadan, beautiful days of Ramadan, that Ya Allah, cure me, purify me, make my tarbiyah, allow me to find a place and a person who can guide me, allow me to get connected with such books, such personalities that can help me rectify the diseases that I suffer from. I ask Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to purify my heart, your heart, and the hearts of the entire ummah. And we ask Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to meet Him on the Day of Judgment in a state that we are purified and clean from kufr and from shirk and from all the various other types of spiritual diseases. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen.